Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive for your daily dose of UPSC Current Affairs analysis. It's February 23rd, 2025, and wow, we have a lot to cover today. So much so that we're actually splitting this deep dive into 3 parts.
3 parts?
Yeah, 3 whole parts. And hey, even if some of these topics sound familiar, revisiting them from a UPSC perspective is always a good idea, right?
You never know.
You never know what connections you might make.
Yeah, you never know.
So, buckle up, get your notes ready, and let's dive in.
All right, let's get started. We've got a lot of ground to cover today, and I think our listeners are going to find these topics particularly relevant for their UPSC preparation.
Absolutely. Speaking of relevance, let's kick things off with India's latest move to boost its space program. On Space, the agency that promotes private space ventures, just launched a Technology Adoption Fund, or TF for short. They're putting a hefty sum of Rs 500 crore on the table.
That's a serious investment.
It is.
And this isn't just about funding. It's about strategic investment. The TAF aims to help Indian space startups reduce reliance on imported technology and develop homegrown solutions. That's a key theme for UPSC. Self-reliance and technological advancement.
So how does this TAP actually work? Is it just a big tool of money everyone can dip into?
Not exactly. It's designed with different support levels. 60% funding for startups and MSMEs, and 40% for larger companies. Each project has a maximum cap of Rs 25 crores. This tiered approach ensures that a diverse range of players can participate, from fledgling startups to established industry giants.
That's interesting. It seems like they're trying to nurture a whole ecosystem, not just individual companies. Thinking about UPSC here, this could be a potential essay question.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
The role of government schemes in promoting technological innovation and self-reliance in strategic sectors.
Absolutely. And it connects to the economic development and science and technology sections of the syllabus as well.
Moving on, we're shifting gears to aviation, another sector where India is making some big moves. The Directorate General of Civil Aviation, or DGCA, just introduced electronic personnel licenses for pilots.
EPLs?
Yes, EPLs.
This is huge for a couple of reasons. First, it aligns perfectly with the ease of doing businesses and Digital India initiatives. Pilots can access their licenses digitally through the EGCA mobile app, eliminating paperwork and streamlining the process.
And here's another interesting tidbit for you. India is only the second country in the world to implement this system after getting approval from the International Civil Aviation Organization.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's right. And from a UPSC perspective, this shows India's proactive approach to adopting international best practices and integrating technology into governance.
Now let's talk about something closer to the ground. Literally, 5 more cheetahs were released into Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh. It's all part of India's ambitious project to reintroduce this magnificent species after it went extinct back in the 1950s.
A very ambitious project.
It is.
Kuno National Park, located near the Vinton Hills, is spread across a vast 750 square kilometers. It's been carefully chosen for its suitable habitat, and it's a crucial part of the action plan for introduction of cheetah in India.
I was reading that the park gets its name from the Kuno River, a tributary of the Chambal, which flows through it. It's interesting how these little geographical details can sometimes be relevant for UPSC.
Definitely. And Kuno isn't just about cheetahs. It's a biodiversity hotspot, home to a variety of flora and fauna, including leopards, jungle cats, and over 120 bird species.
This brings up some key themes for UPSC, like wildlife conservation, habitat restoration, and the importance of biodiversity for ecological balance.
Exactly. And it also connects to international collaborations, as India is working with countries like Namibia and South Africa for this cheetah reintroduction project.
All right, let's zoom out to Indonesia now, where Mount Dakono recently erupted, sending a plume of ash 2,000 meters into the sky.
2,000 meters.
That's pretty high.
That is high. Mount Dakono is located on Halmahera Island in Indonesia's North Maluku province. It's one of the most active volcanoes in the region, and this eruption triggered aviation warnings.
And it's a reminder that Indonesia sits smack dab in the middle of the Ring of Fire, a zone known for its intense volcanic and seismic activity.
A very volatile region.
It is.
Absolutely, and this isn't an isolated incident. We've seen eruptions from other volcanoes like Mount Lubitobi-Laki-Laki, Mount Merapi, and Mount Ruang in recent times.
Now for our UPSC folks, this brings up the topic of disaster management and preparedness, especially in geographically vulnerable regions.
For sure, right. And it also connects to international cooperation in disaster relief efforts and the role of organizations like the UN in responding to such events.
Switching gears, let's talk about a recent development in defense technology. The U.S. president has just issued an executive order to develop a missile defense system inspired by Israel's Iron Dome.
Interesting.
It is.
The Iron Dome is a remarkable piece of technology. It's designed to intercept short-range rockets and has proven incredibly effective in protecting Israeli cities from attacks.
From what I've read, it's capable of operating in all weather conditions, can neutralize a variety of threats, and is mobile enough to be deployed on land or at sea.
It's a very adaptable system,
It is.
and it's a complex system with three core components: a radar to detect incoming threats, a command and control system to assess the threat level, and an interceptor that takes down the threat.
From a UPSC perspective, this is interesting on multiple levels. It brings up international relations, defense partnerships, and the global arms race.
Definitely a lot to unpack there.
There is.
It also connects to the ethics of military technology and the potential consequences of such systems for international stability.
Now, let's shift focus to something a little closer to home. Baathism has been officially recognized as a religion in the Bodoland Territorial Region, or BTR, of Assam.
That's a significant development.
It is.
This is a significant development for the Bodos, the largest Plains tribe in Assam. Baathism is their traditional faith, and this recognition gives it official status within the BER.
I was curious about the word Bathau itself. Apparently, it comes from the Bodo language, where Baba means five and thou means deep philosophical thought. It's fascinating how language reflects cultural beliefs.
It really is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the five core elements of Baathism are bar, air, sun, or fire, and okrung, sky.
And the Siju plant, or Euphorbia splendens, holds a special place in this faith. It's planted on altars as a symbol of life and represents the supreme god, Bathabrai.
And the planting of the Siju is a symbolic ritual in itself. It's placed on an altar that's encircled by a bamboo fence. The fence has 18 pairs of posts, each woven with 5 bamboo strips, representing the 5 stages of life according to Baathism.
This is a great example of how cultural diversity and religious practices can be relevant for the UPSC exam. It touches on themes of social anthropology, the Indian Constitution and its recognition of religious freedom, and the importance of preserving cultural heritage.
Absolutely. Understanding the nuances of different cultures and their practices is essential for any aspiring civil servant in India.
Now let's dive into a fascinating scientific discovery. A new plant species, Strobilanthes gigantea, has been found in Arunachal Pradesh's Indian Himalayan region. It's remarkable for its size. It can sometimes grow as tall as a tree.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's not just the size that makes it unique. It has some very distinctive floral features, including densely packed bracts, an unbroken inflorescence, a slightly curved corolla tube, and even wings on its staminal curtain.
And for those of you wondering what all that botanical jargon means, don't worry. The key takeaway is that this discovery highlights the incredible biodiversity of the Himalayas, especially Arunachal Pradesh.
Such a diverse region.
It is.
That's right, and the Himalayas are a treasure trove of endemic species, meaning they're found nowhere else on Earth.
This connects to several UPSC themes, including biodiversity conservation, the ecological importance of the Himalayas, and the impact of climate change on these fragile ecosystems.
Definitely, and it also highlights the role of scientific research and exploration in expanding our understanding of the natural world.
Now for our final topic in this part of the deep dive, let's delve into a discovery that's both fascinating and a little eerie. Scientists have found lethal brine pools hidden beneath the Red Sea.
Lethal brine pools?
Yes.
Imagine underwater lakes, but instead of fresh water, they're filled with extremely salty, oxygen-depleted water. These pools form on the seafloor, and because they're so dense, they don't mix with the surrounding seawater.
So they're like isolated pockets of extremely salty water. I can see why they'd be deadly to most marine life.
Exactly. The salinity is so high that it's toxic to most organisms, but what's fascinating is that certain types of microbes have adapted to survive in these harsh conditions. They use a process called chemosynthesis to generate energy, rather than relying on photosynthesis like most plants do.
That's incredible. Life finds a way, even in the most extreme environments. And for our UPSC listeners, this discovery highlights the diversity of life on Earth and the interconnectedness of different ecosystems.
Absolutely. It also raises questions about the potential for similar discoveries in other parts of the world and the implications for our understanding of the origins of life.
It really makes you think.
It does.
And that wraps up part 1 of our February 23rd, 2025 deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from space exploration to wildlife conservation, technological advancements to scientific discoveries. Make sure to stay tuned for parts 2 and 3, where we'll delve into even more fascinating topics and connect them back to your UPSC preparation. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the deep dive. We'll see you in part 2.
Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. Ready for part 2 of our February 23rd deep dive. We've got more fascinating current events lined up that are sure to spark your curiosity and help you prepare for the UPSC.
It always amazes me how many incredible discoveries are still being made in the world. We often think we've explored everything, but there are still so many secrets waiting to be uncovered.
Speaking of discoveries, let's talk about a recent finding that has the scientific community buzzing. A new plant species has been discovered in the Indian Himalayan region, specifically in Arunachal Pradesh. It's called Strobilanthes gigantea, and it's truly remarkable.
I read about this. What makes this new plant so special? Is it that gigantic size I heard about?
The size is definitely a standout feature. This plant can grow as tall as a tree, which is unusual for the Strobilanthes genus. But beyond its size, it also has some unique floral characteristics like densely packed bracts, an uninterrupted inflorescence, a slightly curved corolla tube, and even wings on its staminal curtain. Botanists are getting really excited about the specifics, but for us, it's more about what this discovery means for the region.
Right. It highlights the incredible biodiversity of the Himalayas, particularly Arunachal Pradesh, which is already known as a biodiversity hotspot. This feels relevant for UPSC, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This ties directly to topics like biodiversity, conservation, endemic species, and the ecological significance of the Himalayan region. Plus, it underlines the importance of continued scientific research and exploration, even in places we think we know well.
Speaking of unexplored territories, let's shift our focus to a discovery that's both captivating and a little unsettling. Scientists have found something called brine pools hidden beneath the Red Sea brine pools. It sounds ominous. What exactly are we talking about here?
Imagine underwater lakes, but instead of fresh water, they're filled with extremely salty, oxygen-deprived water. These pools form on the seafloor, and their high density prevents them from mixing with the surrounding seawater.
So they're like these isolated pockets of extreme salinity. That sounds pretty inhospitable.
They are. Most marine life can't survive in such conditions. But what's fascinating is that certain types of extremophiles organisms that thrive in extreme environments have adapted to live in these brine pools. They utilize a process called chemosynthesis to generate energy instead of relying on sunlight like most life forms.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. It makes you wonder what other secrets are hidden in the depths of our oceans. And this ties back to that recurring theme of discovery and scientific advancement, which is always relevant for UPSC.
Exactly. It also highlights the interconnectedness of different ecosystems and the importance of understanding how they function. And who knows, maybe this discovery will lead to new insights into the origins of life itself. The possibilities are endless.
Shifting gears, now let's talk about a recent seismic event that shook things up in the Andaman Sea. A 5.2 magnitude earthquake was recorded there just a few days ago.
The Andaman Sea is a fascinating region from a geographical and geological perspective. It's bordered by India, the Malay Peninsula, Myanmar, and Sumatra, making it a strategically important area. And geologically speaking, it's situated within the Sunda Plate, which is bordered by the Indian Plate to the northwest.
So all those tectonic plates rubbing against each other is what causes the earthquakes, right?
Exactly. The ongoing convergence between the Indian and Sunda plates has created the Andaman Basin, a region characterized by undersea ridges, trenches, and faults. All of this makes it incredibly seismically active.
I remember learning about the Andaman Trench in school. It's a massive underwater trench formed by the Indian Plate subducting or sliding under the Eurasian Plate.
That's right. And that subduction zone is a major driver of earthquakes in the region. For UPSC aspirants, this highlights the importance of understanding plate tectonics earthquake zones and the associated risks.
It also brings up the topic of disaster preparedness and mitigation, especially for coastal communities that are particularly vulnerable to earthquakes and tsunamis.
Absolutely, and it also connects to broader themes of environmental geography, the impact of natural disasters on human populations, and international cooperation in disaster relief efforts.
All right, birdwatchers and nature enthusiasts, this next one is for you. A significant discovery was made in peninsular India, the first ever breeding site of the blue-cheeked bee-eater. Now, I know we've touched on a lot of discoveries today, but this one is particularly exciting for the ornithological world.
It's a big deal because previously the blue-cheeked bee-eater was only known as a passage migrant and winter visitor to India. Finding a breeding site here means they've established a more permanent presence.
So where exactly is this newfound breeding site?
It was discovered in the salt pans of Andivilai near the Manakudi mangroves in the Kanyakumari district of Tamil Nadu. It seems these bee-eaters have found a new haven in southern India.
Do we know anything about the habitat they prefer? Why would they choose this particular location?
They typically favor subtropical semi-desert regions with sparse trees. They often nest in small colonies or even share nesting space with European bee-eaters. The salt bands of Undidelai seem to offer a suitable environment for their breeding needs.
This discovery brings up some interesting themes for UPSC, would you say?
Definitely, it highlights the importance of habitat conservation, especially for migratory bird species. It also connects to broader themes of biodiversity, ecological balance, and the impact of human activities on wildlife populations.
And it's a reminder that there's still so much to learn about the distribution and behavior of even common bird species. New discoveries are constantly being made, and it's important for UPSC aspirants to stay updated on these developments.
Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. We're on the final stretch of our February 23rd deep dive.
It's been quite a journey so far, hasn't it? We've explored space, uncovered hidden underwater worlds, and even discovered new species right here in India. It's amazing how much ground we've covered. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to make sure our UPSC aspirants can connect all these dots and see how it all ties back to their preparation.
That's a great point. It's one thing to be aware of current events, but it's even more important to be able to analyze them, understand their significance, and relate them to the UPSC syllabus.
Exactly. So let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. For example, we talked about the Technology Adoption Fund for space startups. How can our listeners connect that to their UPSC preparation?
This initiative hits on several key themes relevant to the UPSC exam. It touches on science and technology advancements, economic development, government policies, and even international collaborations. Aspirants could be asked to analyze its potential impact on India's space program, its role in fostering innovation, or even its implications for India's global standing in the space sector.
That's a great example. And what about the discovery of that new plant species in Arunachal Pradesh? How does that fit into the UPSC syllabus?
That falls squarely under the themes of environment and biodiversity. It could lead to questions about the importance of the Indian Himalayan region as a biodiversity hotspot, the threats faced by endemic species, or the role of conservation efforts in protecting fragile ecosystems. It's a reminder that current events can and do directly link to the syllabus.
So it's all about seeing these events through the lens of the UPSC syllabus, and that applies to everything we've discussed, right?
Absolutely. Whether it's the eruption of Mount Tukono highlighting disaster management, the brine pool discovery showcasing the wonders of the natural world, or even the recognition of Bathalism as an official religion bringing up social and cultural dynamics, it all has relevance. The key is to think critically and connect the dots.
It's about going beyond memorizing facts and figures. It's about understanding the why and the so what behind these events.
Exactly. The UPSC exam is designed to test your analytical skills, your ability to connect the dots, and your understanding of the complexities of our world. And that's what we've aimed to do in this deep dive.
We've tried to provide context, analysis, and insights to help our listeners not just stay informed, but to think critically about the events shaping our world.
And remember, as UPSC aspirants, staying curious and engaged is key. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep connecting the dots. That's how you turn current affairs into a source of knowledge and inspiration, not just another item on your to-do list.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our February 23rd deep dive. It's been a pleasure exploring these fascinating topics with you all.
We hope you found this deep dive insightful and engaging. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics, digging deeper, and connecting them to your UPSC preparation.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the deep dive with your fellow UPSC aspirants. We'll be back with more fascinating deep dives into the world of current affairs. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and best of luck with your UPSC journey.